Aloha whalaua, warm Pacific greetings and welcome to another episode of Pacifically Correct. Today I want to tackle the issue of poverty. And poverty is just a flash word for being broke. So, being broke. Why do I want to tackle this is because the Prime Minister mentioned earlier this week she had a concern about poverty in relation to Māori children, Pacific Island children and disabled children. So for Pacifica, poverty is not a new thing. It's been with us all our lives. In fact, from the moment my parents arrived from the shores of Samoa to the shores of New Zealand, we struggled. So there are some lessons that I think I learnt, and I want to pass those on so that we as Pacifica can rise. There's an old saying, if you always do what you always did, you will always get what you always got. Pacifica, we've got to stop doing the same old mistakes that we've been making so that our children can rise. So here's the first point that I'd like to pass on to you. I know that all Pacifica like to have good things. That's not a bad thing. And they like to have flash things. That's not a bad thing either. But if we are trying to achieve those things by living beyond our means, we're actually digging a hole for ourselves that maybe we or our children might have to crawl out of in later years. I want to encourage us, live within our means. And I know that sometimes we want to give because we're very generous people. We want to give to family problems. We want to give to the church. But if we're giving money that we do not have, again, we're digging ourselves into a hole that's going to take us a while to crawl out of. Giving to the church often gets criticized. And I know that God doesn't want anybody to be in debt because of him, because God, he's wealthy. So it's really a matter of changing our mindset. It's a matter of our faith hours and our pastors looking at different scenarios and saying, guys, here's a nicer way that we can donate without hurting each other or hurting ourselves. I think that's something that we need to address, and it's very few pastors are having a look at that. The next thing I want to explain to you is how important it is to encourage your kids in their education, because you have no idea how poverty can impact on your kids' education. So I'm going to share a quick story with you about myself growing up. When I was at primary school, we had to go on a school trip to the beach to see some crabs and rock pools, and it was going to cost us 25 cents. Now, as the day came up on that week, I was too scared to ask for money because we had no money. Growing up in Kingsland, we didn't have much money at all. And so I held off every day until the morning of the trip. And we were told, if you don't have your money, you're not going, right? So that morning I decided I'm just going to bite the bullet and go and ask my parents. And that morning when I went to ask them, they were having an argument, a mesa, about some money that my mum had sent back to Samoa without telling my dad. So while there was this sort of fight going on, I was thinking, there's no way I'm going to get 25 cents out of my arguing parents. So I just went to school that morning, and when it was time for the school trip to go, me and this young Māori boy, we had to go to room 13 because we were the only two that couldn't afford the trip. And when we walked into room 13, the kids going, oh, how come you're not going on the trip? Oh, who wants to see stink crabs, man? You know, the fact is we couldn't afford it. But the problem was when the classes came back, then what happened was everything for the next week was about what the kids had seen on the trip. So write an essay about what you saw, write an essay about how you felt, write an essay or draw a picture. And it was impossible for the Māori guy and I to do anything because we weren't there. So you'd never know how poverty can impact on your kids' education. Make sure you keep asking your kids if they have everything that they need for their education. And finally, the last thing is watch out for those shady characters out there that are just trying to take money off you. Years ago when I was in the police, people used to come to me asking me if I could help them get their money back from second-hand salesmen, for example, second-hand car salesmen. So what would happen is, some poor father would save up $2,000, and that's all he had to get a car so he could get to work, so he could feed his family. He rocks up to a car dealer, he tells the person he's only got $2,000 and that's all he's going to spend, and the next thing you know, he's driving away with an $11,000 car with a $2,000 deposit. He's thinking this is great because of all the fast talking. He thinks he's going to be able to do it. And then after the second payment fails, the car gets repossessed. They've lost their money. They've got no car. Watch out for those sorts of things. Watch out for clothing trucks that sell you things. Watch out for loan sharks. These are the things that keep us trapped in poverty. So we need to start being a little bit smarter. We need to start changing the way that we approach things. And we always need to be looking to the next generation because, let's face it, it's going to be tough for us with a foundation. But it's always going to be a little bit easier for your kids because you created a great foundation. That's the way we're going to beat poverty. Now, having said that, let's keep it Pacifically correct. Ka whai lava, Pasifika.